Hey everyone, welcome to the Industry Show. I'm your host Nitin Bajaj, and joining us today is Parimal Rohit. Parimal, thanks for joining us.
Oh, yeah, thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Our pleasure.
Yeah.
So tell us your journey up to now.
Oh, well, I always like to say anybody who is both creative and entrepreneurial never has a straight line.
True.
We're all over the place. So my story is no different. I started off my life with wanting to be a politician as young as I can remember. Went to school to study politics, ended up in law school, tried to be a lawyer, went over to the sports world. I tried to be in sports management, and I ended up finding a job as a boxing writer. And that got me in on the path to be a journalist. And I've since went on to cover politics and the environment and Bollywood and what have you. And so it's been a weird, windy route, but I went from politics to law to sports to full-time journalist.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It's definitely been fun, no doubt about that.
What's your inspiration?
Oh, inspiration for me, it's there was a saying back when the Raiders played in LA, and the key word they're saying was excellence. And I'd like to say that's kind of what inspires me as well. I'm driven by anything that represents excellence, whether it be a product or a pursuit of character. Just it amazes me when people strive to be excellent, to make the best of what they have, what they can do. And to me, that's the most inspiration I could find in anything is what can you create that's above and beyond what you think you're capable of doing, and with that pursuit of excellence. So for me, anything that I see excellence in, that always inspires me.
Great. What are you not good at?
You have a few hours? I know sure. We can talk about a lot.
I'll take notes.
I think one of the things I definitely have been working on a lot in terms of weaknesses is trying to be persistent and not letting things slide. Mostly in a procrastination point of view, like, okay, I know I got to do something, but I don't always attend to it right away. So I'll kind of, I'll get to it soon. No urgency. And that's something, that it's cost me sometimes in terms of not being able to pursue an opportunity, or I lost an opportunity because of my lack of urgency at times. And so that's something I work on frequently is how do I make sure I'm responsive to the world around me as without being too aggressive, right? And yeah, I think that's my biggest blind side, so to speak, is the inability sometimes to understand the urgency of the situation.
So taking it a step further, a mistake that may have changed your career for the better?
Sure. I did try my hand at a business maybe 14, 15 years ago, and this was in the sports business, and it was probably the biggest mistake I've made in terms of operating the venture. It cost me quite a bit in terms of both professionally and professionally and personally. And it set me back a few years in terms of my development. But I also learned a lot of lessons from that in terms of, okay, now I know the mistakes I've made. I know what I did to make those mistakes. So now how do I not do those things?
Right. What not to do.
What not to do,
yeah.
Exactly.
As an entrepreneur and as a journalist, what's your take on life?
So as a journalist, specifically, I look at my role as storytelling. And to me, that's also my take on life. Is we all have a story to tell.
Yes.
I don't care who it is. You have a story to tell, I have a story to tell. And so how can we tell that story and tell that story in a way that's both authentic and in a way that connects with people? Because anybody can have a story, but if the story doesn't relate to you, then what's the point of telling a story? So for me, my take on my life, or any life through it is, through the lens of journalism, is how can we tell a story that actually resonates with people?
Right. What's a roadblock that you overcame that you're proud of?
I think the biggest roadblock I overcame was just figuring out how to be emotionally intelligent. It's very hard to relate to people, understand what they're going through. I mean, everybody can understand their own lens, but they're trying to put yourself in other people's lenses. And as a journalist, when I'm telling other people's stories, I have to think about what is their lens, what is their journey. And it's really hard to do, to figure out, okay, how do I know your story? And how do I understand your struggles? And that takes a lot of time to figure out of, okay, how do I connect with you in a way that I understand what you're going through without looking through my lens?
Right.
And that's hands down been the hardest thing for me to overcome.
How did you do that?
I think just spending a lot of time with people and asking them questions, even off the record, when the recorder's off, when the camera's off, and I just ask them about their life, and I just listen. I think people forget to listen.
Right.
You know, it's easy to talk, but can you listen to people? And I think that's what helps.
What motivates you?
For me, motivation comes from many sources, but I think the biggest thing is what I want to accomplish, and that's to give people a voice. Journalism is a conversation, and I look at everything I do as a conversation. And the more people that can have conversations with me and with anybody else, the better. So I'm motivated to give people as much of an opportunity to speak and tell their story, to have their conversations possible.